Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Dorr, president of AEI, and I'd like to welcome you to Ed the Right Way, an AEI education event featuring Virginia Secretary of Education, Amy Guidera. I don't always come to education events or all the events at AEI, but they do trot me out for important events of this kind. We have a very important new participant in the public debate on an issue that we care about a lot. And that's the case here in education and with Secretary Guidera. She has had a long and distinguished career in educational advocacy. In 2012, Time magazine called her one of the 12 education activists of the year. She has served on the boards of several educational advocacy groups, such as America Succeeds and the Institute for Educational Leadership. She was also founder, president, and CEO of the Data Quality Campaign, a nationwide effort to improve the quality of information available to students, parents, educators, and policymakers. After Governor Youngkin was elected on a platform of reforming Virginia schools, he nominated Secretary Guidera to be his Secretary of Education last December. In this role, she oversees all pre-K to post-secondary public education in the state. Like those of us at AEI, she is a believer in providing parents options and choice, and she understands the important, indeed vital role that parents play in providing a good education for their children. We'll hear first from Secretary Guidera, and then she will be joined by Rick Hess, our very distinguished and long-standing Director of Education Policy Studies, for a brief discussion before we move into Q&A from all of you. So I'd like to thank once again Secretary Guidera for joining this event and Rick and his team for putting it together.
So thank you. Thank you to the entire AEI team for what you do to ensure that the words that I get to read every morning when I walk into the office, to make sure that they're not just a historic artifact. And here's a fun fact. My great new office doesn't just overlook the Capitol and the Executive Mansion, but it's actually in the old Library of Virginia building. And there are quotations from 4 Virginians who went on to be US presidents. And my favorite of these quotes is one from Thomas Jefferson. "Free inquiry and reason are the natural enemies of error." Let me read that again. "Free inquiry and reason are the natural enemies of error." These words are not just decoration at the top of our office building. They are the foundation for Governor Youngkin's education agenda. And I'm so pleased to be with you today to provide an overview of our vision, our priorities, and our goals. And I'm honored and delighted, really honored and really delighted to be a part of the governor's team as he works to make Virginia the best place to live, to work, and to raise a family. And on this call, we all know that for that goal to become a reality, Virginia also needs to be the best place to learn. So everything that we do in the next 4 years in the Youngkin administration will be guided by our North Star to prepare every single learner for success in life, in our economy, our democracy, and in our communities. Everything we do in education will be shaped by this goal. And how will we know we'll be successful in the long term? We have 3 benchmarks we're going to use. 1, graduates of Virginia education institutions will be hired into family wage supporting jobs, and they'll be actively engaged and productively engaged in civic life. 2, companies will be attracted to, remain in, and grow in the Commonwealth due to the quality of the talent pool. And 3, the Virginia economy will grow. One of the most shocking parts about my introduction into this job is the reaction that the Commonwealth, so many people in the Commonwealth have had to the governor's goal of restoring excellence to education. Members of the General Assembly, our education associations and institutions, and the media want to continue to extol Virginia as the best. And yet the data doesn't back this up. We're resting on our laurels and being deluded by averages that mask the stark disparities in the quality of education and in the results that we're getting across the Commonwealth. You know, I thought I had left Lake Wobegon, that place you all know, where the women are strong, the men are beautiful, and all the children are above average. I thought I'd left that all behind me when I transplanted from Minnesota. But boy, is it alive and still well in the Commonwealth. And if you look at our trend lines and at our disaggregated data, it is apparent that we are not serving all students well, not at any level, but we can and we will. Here are a couple of facts about the concerning trends that we're working to turn around. First, we need to start talking about learning loss. And I don't mean unfinished learning, as it's increasingly called. I'm talking about learning loss and our students' urgent need for learning recovery. The Center for Assessment Analysis showed in several states that they studied that the pandemic learning loss is 2 to 3 times greater than that we saw at Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. And other studies continue to show that this is more so even in Virginia. One study showed that our pandemic learning loss in math was 7% worse than it is in other places around the nation. And Virginia's learners were already struggling to meet rigorous standards. Well, yes, we do perform above the average on NAEP. Student proficiency in English and reading, as measured by our own state standards or standards of learning, was already declining. More than 40% of Virginia's students are not proficient in second grade. And among those students that need learning recovery, 20%, 1% more Black and 22% more Hispanic are not performing as well as compared to white students. And not surprisingly, when students graduate, they're not prepared for the life after school. In fact, public high school graduates going into community college directly 13% require remediation in English and 15% require remediation in math. And new data that came out just last week from the College Board showed that while Virginia used to be number 3 in the nation of producing AP scores number 3 and above, we now just fall, and we were 3rd in the nation at that point, we're now down to 9 since 2015. Every single one of our trends is going down with student achievement, but also in the impact that's having on our economic recovery. We are placed number 45 across the entire nation for recovering from the pandemic in our economic position. And right now we have over 300,000 jobs, mostly in the high skill, high wage jobs that remain unfilled. And why? We don't have the talent and the capacity to fill them. We have to do better. We need to do better. So how are we going to turn around these downward trends and turn them around and also get closer to that North Star? We will have an unwavering focus on creating a best-in-class education system from early learning through post-secondary education, and that we will ensure every learner is prepared for jobs in the knowledge economy. Our work will be focused on achieving measurable results, meeting every student where she is, and prioritizing those that we know are furthest behind. We will leverage evidence, and we will leverage emerging best practices so we can expedite progress and keep on track.